Somebody once asked us, why the John Muir Trail? It really came down to a statement that we'd read in Backpacker magazine. Once we'd read that, we just had to find out for ourselves. Having parked our exit vehicle in Yosemite, we then backtracked through the park and made our way down to Lone Pine, where we secured our wilderness permit at the Eastern Sierra Visitor Center. Because of the quota on permits for the JMT, and after trying unsuccessfully to secure one through the lottery, we took the advice of fellow YouTuber, a guy that goes by the name of Ape Man, 2 words, and decided to hike the trail south to north starting at Horseshoe Meadows, which is about 20 miles south of Mount Whitney. This route can be a little tougher initially simply because you are thrust into a starting elevation of over 10,000 feet. Coming from Utah and Idaho, where we live at approximately 4,400 to 4,700 feet, depending on the members of our group, it's not quite as big of a stretch as if, for instance, we had come from sea level. Most of the peaks, however, on the northern Wasatch Front where we had trained were around 9,700 feet, and we would be facing the tallest peak in the lower 48, Mount Whitney, at 14,505 feet on day 4. This ultimately would end up being our downfall on our quest for that summit. But now I'm starting to get ahead of myself. So let me back up and introduce the members of our party. This is my wife Darcy. Trail name, Country Girl. We chose that name simply because I grew up in a small town in rural Idaho. And I can tell you from experience, there isn't anything tougher on this planet than a true country girl. By the time most people roll out of bed, a country girl's already moved pipe, fed calves, and bucked hay. And if you're not familiar with that last expression, simply means you probably have no idea just how tough a country girl really is. And Darcy, she's the epitome of just that. Tough as nails. I do have to insert an editorial note at this point. Darcy, I, and our son Mitch all were carrying cameras on this trip. Darcy, of course, was taking predominantly pictures of Mitch and I, conversely, was taking mostly pictures of her and Mitch. At approximately 170 miles into our hike at Virginia Lake, I experienced a catastrophic failure of my 128 gig SD card on my camera during a time-lapse recording. Because I was carrying the only full-frame camera out of the 3 of us, and had taken the majority of the pictures thus far on the trip, that corrupt SD card contained over 1,700 pictures and numerous videos, and sadly, almost all the pictures of Darcy that were taken up to that point. That is the reason you will see very few pictures of her in this video, a circumstance that I am truly very sorry for. Lesson learned. Record on smaller capacity media cards, back up frequently to a portable drive, and shoot all subjects from multiple cameras just to be safe. Now, on to our son Mitch. Trail name, Boomerang. Mitch was 13 years old when he completed this hike with us. To say that we are proud parents is the understatement of the year. He endured many long, hot days, short nights, at least they felt that way, and many tough ascents carrying a heavy pack, and sometimes by the dark of night. And his nickname Boomerang? He had this habit of going way ahead of us, then dropping back to the back end to bring up the rear, then up to the front, then back to the rear. It just seemed fitting given his behavior. We love him more than life itself and will be forever grateful that he chose to give up most of his summer between the 7th and 8th grade to come with us on our adventure. An experience I'm sure he will never forget, and one of which we talk about frequently as a family. We gave my sister Dan the trail name of Happy Lala. Over the course of the entire 250 miles that we covered on the JMT and the approach, I don't remember hearing one word of discouragement or complaint from Deanne. It didn't matter how difficult the trail, the heat of the day, or the weight of our packs. She never had one negative comment or displayed any negative temperament. To the contrary, she was always the first to say, "We can do this. We've got this. Let's do it." She was truly a ray of sunshine on the trail, and thus she earned her trail name, Happy Lala. Burning Man. That's a trail name that we gave Zahn, Deanne's husband. And that name was literal. Perhaps because of his hair color and the company's skin tone, he was especially susceptible to sunburn, and in fact had a nasty incident one day when we took a short nap in the middle of the day where the sun changed position, and one little area on his foot and ankle were exposed for a short time to the harsh rays of the sun at high altitude. Zon was a tremendous help on the trail and always looking for ways to help us out with our daily tasks that are part of the JMT. Oh, and that trail name of Burning Man is partly due to his political views, but that's another story altogether. Finally, there's me. My name is Myron Hartley, trail named Gus. They gave me that name because during the summer that we hiked the JMT, my son-in-law, a true cowboy from Wyoming, was riding a half-draft workhorse named, you guessed it, Gus. They claim it was due to the heavy load that I carried up and over our first pass, Forester. But I think it simply was because both Gus and I were carrying extra pounds around our midsection. And really, at the end of the day, I'm just a storyteller. But with the incredible beauty that we experienced on JMT, this story almost tells itself. I was just along for the ride.
Okay, we have hiked 1.7 miles, so how has it been so far?
Nice, soft ground underfoot.
How's the mosquitoes?
Very casual and easy trail. Mosquitoes, we just coated ourselves with lemon eucalyptus, so we'll see how that all comes out. But so far, so good.
What about you, Mom? What do you think?
Oh, I think my pack's nice and light.
That's what we keep telling ourselves. It's made of feathers.
Feathers. Light as a feather.
Give good thoughts.
Positive. Positive affirmation frequently, right, Mitch?
Yes. That's the only thing keeping me going.
Enjoying talking to Mitch about all of his
Life.
school buddies. He's my trail partner so far. We've been leading the pack.
Probably making your ears bleed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Well, talk to you later.
Out.
Okay, we have hiked all day and today is day 2. How do you feel?
Right now, tired, like my feet are boiling. But happy to have a breeze and to be sitting on a rock even though it's pointy and sharp.
My feet are so swollen. How about you, Father?
I feel like as soon as I knock some of this gear off and send it home on our first resupply, things are going to get a lot smoother. But by then we'll have already gone up and over Forester Pass, and that's a ways.
Tell them how much your pack weighs.
A little over 70, about 75 pounds.
Talk to you guys later.
On day 2 from Chicken Springs Lake to Rock Creek, Zon and Dan got low on water. These two young ladies were on a break from college gladly shared their water with them. One of their trail names was Texas, and the other had not received her trail name yet. We just call them Trail Angels. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being so generous. On the evening of day 3, we arrived at Upper Crabtree Meadows Ranger Station where we pitched our camp for the evening. After getting settled in and consulting our map and calendar, I realized I had made a miscalculation concerning the days left to our resupply. Our only chance at summiting Mount Whitney would be leaving just a few hours later in hopes of being on the summit by sunup. We were very tired. After being at elevation for 3 days, having more weight than we should have, still being at Crabtree Meadows versus Guitar Lake, and now with only a few hours of sleep, we set off for Mount Whitney at about 1:08 a.m. We didn't make it. At approximately 4:30 a.m., I succumbed to altitude sickness just prior to where the JMT meets up with the trail coming up from Whitney Portal. I encouraged Darcy to go on without me as she easily could have, but she wouldn't even consider it. Shortly thereafter, perhaps because of my dizziness, I tripped and fell off the trail, spilling my pack in what looked like an REI garage sale and breaking one of my trekking poles in the process. It was very disheartening not to make the summit, but when you're out in the wilderness secluded like we were, there are times to be tough and there are times to be smart. In this case, I know we made the right decision, and we'll have to attempt that summit again in the future when I am personally a little more prepared. On day 5, after having slept at Wallace Creek, we hiked over to Tyndall Creek, stopping at one of the high alpine lakes on the way. Reaching Tyndall Creek at about 2 p.m., we did some laundry, took a short nap, and put some fuel in our tanks for what would be our assault on Forester, our first major pass. That pattern would prove to be repeated over and over as we made our way up to Yosemite. Get out, hike early, take a small break during the heat of the day, then continue hiking on into the evening during the coolest hours. It worked for us. The only downside is having to occasionally set up camp in the dark. But even then, once you've done that a few times, it becomes second nature. On the evening of night 5, we took off for Forester Pass, which was about 4.7 miles to our north. The moon was coming up in the eastern sky, and we were all in good spirits in spite of altitude sickness suffered by some.
Want to pour some more of your filtered water in there?
Here we are coming up Forester Pass.
Wanting to die.
It's about 8:20 at night. Hoping to get over the pass and at least 1.7 miles down the road before it's all said and done. So it's kind of our game plan. How's everybody feeling? How you feeling back there?
We're feeling the altitude, but yippee-hi-yo!
My thoughts exactly. By the time we reached Forester, the views by moonlight were incredible. We stopped and laid down on a massive rock for about 30 minutes just prior to hiking the main ascent, and just took it all in. It was clear, bright, and beautiful. It will be forever etched in our minds. As we approached the pass, we could look down on the valley below on what appeared to be bright lights, almost like tents lit up, but it was actually the moon reflecting off pools of water below. The pass itself was tough for us. Approaching from the south, the switchbacks to the summit are very steep. Most people descend on the side we went up. It was definitely our most daunting challenge so far. One wrong step off the trail and you could easily fall to your death. We reached the summit at approximately 3 a.m. according to the exit data on our camera. It was exhilarating. After a short stay at the summit, we began our descent down the north side, but the trail was almost immediately covered in a snowdrift from the preceding winter and we outright lost the trail. We consulted our maps and could see where we needed to go, but without actually being on the trail, we were reluctant to proceed, especially since the moon was now on the other side of the pass. We could see the camp lights of some hikers about 1,000 feet below us, so we attempted to find the trail for about an hour between us and them. Eventually, we found ourselves on a pretty steep slope and we made the decision to wait it out till morning light to be able to find the trail. We pulled out our sleeping bags, wrapped up, and waited for the sun to show. It was cold. We were surrounded by snow patches as we had just come over the pass at 13,200 feet. And even though our sleeping bags covered us on the top side, the rocks we were sitting on were like ice sheets. We only had to wait for about 2 hours for the sun to come up, and when it did, we immediately found the trail. We were within 75 yards of it when we finally hunkered down for the night. Day 7 began at about 2 a.m. We had arrived at the Bullfrog Lake Junction a few hours previous at about 11 p.m. We quickly ate our dinner and went to sleep under the open stars. We knew we still had just over 7 miles to go up and over Kearsarge Pass to meet Strider at the Onion Valley Campground from Mount Williamson Hotel, and we didn't want to be late. We passed Strider on the way down off of Kearsarge as she was on her daily walk up to the top of the pass. Yes, you heard that correct. Strider's daily routine is to drop off her hikers after breakfast from the previous day's pickup, then stride, pun intended, up to the top of Kearsarge Pass, a round-trip distance of about 9.4 miles according to my Tom Harrison maps. Talk about fit. After checking into our rooms and handing in our laundry, which was returned to us later washed and folded, we took hot showers, walked the 200 yards into town, and had fresh-baked pizza at the local grocery store. We were in heaven. Normally, we would have left the next morning back to the trail, but since I had broken my trekking poles coming off of Whitney, we stayed an extra day so Darcy and I could hitchhike the 80-mile round trip to Bishop. That turned out to be an all-day adventure. Just prior to our hiking the JMT, I shaved my head for convenience, and because my temperature jumps to boiling when I put a hat on. I must have looked like a serial killer because we put a lot of miles on our feet that next day. Thankfully, there were a few good Samaritans out there that gave us a ride, otherwise we'd probably still be walking to this day. Deanna's and Mitch spent the day in their air-conditioned hotel rooms letting their blisters heal and eating good food. The next morning, after a hot breakfast at the hotel, we headed back up and over Kearsarge Pass on our way back to intersect the JMT. We left about 100 pounds of gear behind to be picked up later. Just a quick plug for Mount Williamson Motel. Strider and her staff were incredible to work with. They were happy, helpful, accommodating, worth every penny that we spent there for our resupply and stay. I would highly recommend them to anyone who is considering resupplying on the south end of the JMT. On the evening of our re-entry to the JMT, we met up with 3 medical personnel, 2 doctors and a nurse, who had just spent 2 extra days on the trail helping a young girl who needed to be medically evacuated via helicopter due to high-altitude cerebral edema. They were virtually out of food because of their unscheduled extra days, but refused to take any of ours because they were being met with a resupply mule train the next morning. Thank goodness for good people like these who are willing to sacrifice their own interests to help others. On day 11, after crossing Woods Creek Bridge, we started to make our way up to Pinchot Pass, which would take us up over 3,500 vertical feet for the day. It was hotter than the devil's toenail. It took us almost all day to cover the 11 miles from our original starting point to just beyond Pinchot, where we slept under the stars on a huge rock slab overlooking Lake Marjorie.
Yeah, I can't reach it. Is it worth getting my shoes wet? I do.
Day 15 began with 4 mule deer bucks strolling into our camp and hanging out within 20 feet of our tents. They waltzed around camp for probably 10 minutes without a care in the world. It was a great start to a beautiful day that would take us up and over Muir Pass and eventually to an overlook point above McClure Meadow. You'll notice as Deanna traverses the snow, she looks a little unsteady, but when you look at the same footage as Zahn goes across, you realize the footing is far from stable. the Good Samaritans, right?
Yeah.
Morning after we tackled the land. It wasn't bad from the other side, right?
Right.
The view called when we came down, it took us like 2.5 hours to get to Red
Because
Lakes.
it was so rocky.
And forever.
Yeah.
It was like 3+ miles to get down to those lakes.
Yeah, that was tough. And remember when the guy was telling you that he kept losing the path on that side?
Oh, you know where he's talking about.
Yeah.
Here
we are, top of the Muir Pass. We made it.
we did. We thought we were a lot closer last night. We thought we were at Helen Lake. We weren't. We still had about 2 miles left. We finally did make it to Helen Lake. And sure enough, the pass was only about 1 mile beyond that, so we're happy to be here.
Is that why Helen Lake is called Helen Lake?
Exactly.
H-E-L-L-E-N.
Just another morning on the JMT. We got a waterfall that falls off into this beautiful valley down below that we're going to be walking through today, about 10+ miles. Down nestled in these trees is our tent and campsite overlooking the whole valley. There's Darcy down there. We're just trying to get all cleaned up for the day. You can see the scenery off in the distance. Okay, bud. Do it.
Oh, I can't.
Yes, you
I
can.
don't want to move.
You can do it. Come on. Come on, jump in.
I'm gonna scream.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Do you?
Yes. My feet aren't gonna push me.
Huh? You want me to push you in?
Yep.
Hurry up. Come on. Way out in there.
I'm free, okay? Cry. What? I told you to do this.
1. Are you ready?
No.
1, 2, 3. It's not cold at all.
Oh, it's pretty good.
On day 16, about 3/4 of the way through McClure Meadow, we got caught in a rapidly developing thunderstorm that caused us to quickly pitch our tents and sit tight for about 2 hours while we waited for it to blow over. As we were now behind in our schedule for the day, we decided to continue hiking into the night, which put us in perfect position for the re-entry of a Chinese rocket into the atmosphere directly over our heads and parallel with the trail we were on. The rocket stage weighed over 12,000 pounds and hit the Earth's atmosphere traveling over 18,000 miles per hour and was seen over 5 western states, lighting up the sky in what seemed like to us to last forever. But in actuality lasted just over 1 minute. The next morning on our way to Muir Trail Ranch, we gave a little lift to an elderly lady who had hurt her knee and required medical evacuation. The sound of the evac helicopter became somewhat common to us as we made our journey northward, another testament to the remoteness of the trail we were on. The beauty of resupplying at MTR is the bucket exchange area, where you can leave behind supplies that you deem unneedful and pick up new supplies left by others that you feel are valuable. We spent about 2 hours repacking our bear vaults with little treasures like packaged peanut butter and packets of that delicious mystery meat known as Spam. Day 18 was a day to kick back and relax at the hikers camp adjacent to Muir Trail Ranch. We slept in, ate a bunch of heavy food that we had no intention of carrying any further, and washed all of our clothes and gear in the river. That expression requires a little explanation. When I speak of quote washing our clothes, I'm referring to rinsing them out over and over and over in the river water while kneading them back and forth to try and expel the trail dirt that gets into everything. It's not perfect, but it's all you can do when you're in the backcountry. We finished the day with very heavy resupplied bear vaults, climbing out of MTR and hiking to Sanger Creek just a few miles away.
Grab the video camera, and then he's going to video us, and he's going to be kind enough to grab my pack and this camera. Unfortunately, Mitch, aka Boomerang, is so quick that he already ran ahead, which he loves to do. Went ahead and already did the crossing.
We felt pretty fortunate to be able to cross Bear Creek in knee-deep water. We had spoken to several hikers on the south end of the trail that claimed to have crossed the same spot about 10 days earlier in what was then waist-deep water, which is sketchy at best. You'll notice that we all released our waist belt on our packs before crossing the river, or in Darcy's case, she just sent her pack over on the pack mule Gus. This prevents your pack from becoming an automatic anchor should you slip and fall into the water. At least then you have a decent chance of jettisoning it before it turns you into fish food. Okay, this is my impression of Mitch when he's well fed and feels good. Hiking. Okay? Now, this is my impression of Mitch when he hasn't had enough to eat. I joked in this video about Mitch and his needing constant food, but it was actually no laughing matter. We could tell every time Mitch was low on calories because he would start to sway back and forth, and pretty soon his tent would fall out of the strapping on his backpack. We simply learned that we had to feed him frequently and abundantly, resorting to 30-gram protein bars between meals, in addition to the regular high-calorie snacks and treats that we consumed. And no, he doesn't have blood sugar issues. He is simply a growing teenage boy. Part of the JMT experience are everyday aches and pains, such as blisters and more blisters. Normally, my feet look like everyone else's, as opposed to the alien claws you're witnessing in this picture. We tried everything. Duct tape, hiker's tape, draining blisters, not draining blisters. Nothing seemed to help. Eventually, however, your feet just turn into hooves. Fortunately, time heals all wounds. Day 24 was our longest day on the entire trail. We started out the crack of dawn and hiked 14 miles, all uphill, via the high trail on our way to Thousand Island Lake, which we reached just after sundown. Darcy was so tired she didn't even eat her evening meal, which is saying a lot since calories are so critical on the trail. She just faded off to sleep as soon as she had her air mattresses blown up and sleeping bags in place. When I finally brought her our meal in a bag, nothing but crickets. What about Tuolumne Meadows and hamburgers?
That's later.
That's on the way, bud. We celebrated our last pass, Donahue, by eating a Snickers that we had saved from Red's Meadow. It was an exhilarating feeling to know that for the most part, it was all downhill from there to Yosemite. We spent over an hour on the pass just soaking it all in and taking in the magnificence of our surroundings. It was awesome.
Good morning. It's finally nice to see you. It's been a long time coming, and now I get to meet you. In the peace plantation, always on my mind. And all the lights are turned off, but the stars are on outside.
Day 28, our last. We woke up to two little spotted fawns running around just outside our camp. Later that day, we would see a bobcat and the only bear on the whole trail along with her cub. It was an incredible end to our adventure on the JMT. We can't wait to come back. Maybe a little later in the year so we can experience the fall colors. And we will probably pursue it from north to south next time just to change up the landscape order a little. And what Backpacker magazine claimed? Absolutely true. It was the most beautiful trail in America. So far.
cotton high.